Hi, so you're joining me here at the allotment today, and I'm going to do a little bit more of a look through stuff that we've got going on here. Um, I did a under minute video the other day about the allotment and how I'm getting it set up for this year, but this one's going to be a bit longer. So to start with, we're here in the shed. Let's just move this cardboard out of the way. Got some shelves here, which I'm going to be keeping all the little bits and bobs that I need regularly. My gloves. In this box, I've got a bulb planter that I've got to build. There's a big tub down here, and at the moment, it's got my children's windmills in, which are great for keeping some of the predators off my bits and bobs. They work quite well with the pigeons, and I believe actually even the deer, because I've had deer damage on the plot where they haven't been, but when they're at a nice height to upset the deer, they keep them off the tender bits that they want to eat. I've got some netting here left over from some of the hoops we've built. A bag of compost that I just keep in here ready to do potting up. Some of my trays that go on the stands. These are all buckets of mushrooms. They're full of straw, inoculated straw. Just sitting there at the moment. I've got to put some holes in them. Some netting from the fruit cage we've just taken down off my old plot. Some netting tubes which go over the cabbages and things. There's a few implements in the corner there. There's a couple of rakes and a Dutch hoe there. This tray here has got some seeds on planted. We're going to come back to that. There's some of the potatoes and shallots and things ready to go in. And then I'm starting to make some piles down here with all my pots and things, and my watering can I've just filled up with. So in here, last month in January, I put some seeds. I don't know if you can see this. I've got white Lisbon, rainbow chard, bolt hardy, none of which have come up. And then on the end here, I've got some stromboli broccoli, which are just starting, you can see, just starting to peek through. Now these have just gone into, at the time it was just a dampened compost, and it was only damp because it had been outside over winter and was a bit wet. I didn't even bother watering them. In this one, we've got leek, bleu de soleils, Evesham Brussels sprouts. These are the Petit Posy flower sprouts that I showed you on my seed starting video. And then I've got some Brussels sprouts there as well, some different varieties. These have actually come up quite nicely. Some of them, as I say, haven't. I don't think the leek seeds are going to come up. I think they've probably had it. They were not great germinators last year either. Having put them in damp compost to start with, I've now actually put a little bit of water underneath because that compost had dried out. I'll just cover these back up. And then in the final one here I've got spinach Amelia F1, cabbage Golden Acre, they've not come up yet, cabbage Greyhound, they're just coming up, and broccoli, which is an autumn variety, which are doing rather well. So there we go. They are literally, I mean, outside the window, they're just in the distance. You can see those water butts, and they're covered in ice. Hi, editing Liz here, just very briefly. The reason I've told you that the water butts are covered in ice is that that's the sort of temperatures we're getting overnight. We're definitely getting a freeze. And obviously, these little seedlings would not like that. Despite how hardy the adult plants would be, these seedlings will not like that freeze. So back to the video about how I'm protecting them. So all these is behind a glass window of the shed on a tray. So they're getting that light. But I've also got these propagation lids on, and they are all closed to keep any warmth in. Might need to review that if we start to get a lot of sun. Might need to open that just to let any sort of condensation out so they don't dampen off. Anyway, so that's my shed. It's not highly exciting. I've got a huge piece of cardboard here I've got to climb over now. And this morning I have been emptying out these 35-litre tubs. I've emptied them into this double raised bed. It's pallet collars, which are 2 deep. And I've just emptied a few of them in. You can see that it's roughly, it's not very level, but it's going to be roughly the sort of height of the first collar. And out of the tubs that I've been emptying into there, I've harvested the last of my potatoes from last year that were in pots. So a little bit further to where we were the other day when I did a short video, I've got 3 raised collar beds there, double height. At the moment, apart from the one you've just seen, they are all blank to the ground, sort of open and empty, and I am going to line them with some cardboard and then fill them. This one's got some leaks from last year. Unfortunately, the allium miner got to those, and they've not done so well, so we're just going to cover them all over. This is one of the raised beds we made the other year. I've got some photographs which I'll put together in a video as a sort of how-to on building these. These beds at the beginning of lockdown cost £100 each to build, which actually, by the standards that you pay for things in the garden centres, or even just like the wood and stuff now, is really quite cheap. So they've already done 4 years. They're fairly sturdy still. Really pleased with them, and they're a nice long space, and you can access them on both sides, so you can get to the middle from both sides. I'll find out all the measurements and things, and we'll do a video about those, because if I can get another couple built, I'd really like that. So anyway, that's that one. And then I put the arch in here, which I'm going to grow my peas, my runner beans, that sort of thing, over the top. Nice wide walkway down here. And then this is the other one. It's metal roofing panels, these panels, and they are just on the inside. So none of the wood on the inside gets touched by the soil. It's all sort of kept away by the metal. The only part that does touch is on the ground there. And recently I saw a YouTuber who was advocating you put plastic under your beds to protect the wood from the ground. I really don't advocate that, purely because if you've got plastic and water is collecting on the plastic, it's got nowhere to run off. So you might be stopping the wood from touching the ground, but what you're not doing is stopping the water from pooling underneath it in that plastic and just rotting it. So personally, if you're going to use anything, I would use some of this weed suppressant membrane, because that will let the water run away and it won't keep it next to the wood. But please don't use plastic. It's a false economy to think that you're protecting the wood from the ground. It's actually better for it to sit on the ground like this, because the water can run away from it. And again, on the inside, it's protected by the metal. This soil in here, let me see if I can get to some of it, is actually, oh look, there's a worm right on the top. It's actually quite good. This was the original soil that was put in these beds. It was topsoil from a friend's garden, and I filled the bottom of these beds with sticks, not unlike the hazel you see on the top here, and then lots of grass clippings. And another friend of mine, she does gardening, and she gave me probably about 6 or 7 bags for each one of leaves that she'd collected in a garden, and we filled it all with that, and then we put the topsoil from the garden on top. And I have amended it a little bit on the top over the last 4 years with some bags of compost, but that's really it. And that soil is really nice. When we dug them up from the previous place and brought all the soil over here, there was very little left to rot down. Some cardboard was left, but the twigs and the sticks and the leaves and everything else, they'd all gone. So 4 years, and it's really turned that round nicely. And then on this end here, you can see we've got another 3 of these double pallet collar beds. These are a little bit wonky at the minute because the plot tends to slope down like this. So I may end up making these a little bit higher and levelling them off first, because I did find last year when I watered things, they ran down to the bottom. This is where one of the collars were last year. You can see the different types, you can see the compost on the top. And the water literally ran and pulled all the seeds down to the one end of the bed, which is not ideal. Anyway, there's a different view of my shed. And very cleverly, they've put some guttering on here for me, which we've had to put on with all different little bits and bobs, because it's not traditional guttering. It wouldn't just hold on with the clips. And then it's quite a large surface area for a shed. Well, at least on our allotments, because some of them are a lot smaller. And then we've had that go into an IBC here, which is a really imperative on this site because we don't have any water. Any water we have, we collect ourselves. So you can see next door's plot with the greenhouse has got the pipes running off either side into the barrows here, and then they're filling up those there. And actually, you can see on the top there probably a little bit of ice. It doesn't feel that cold, but we've obviously been really cold overnight. Just in front of my shed, my dad made me these. There's some old scaffold boards with just 4 pieces of wood in the corner for like thick battens in the corner, and he screwed all the scaffold board onto there, and that made me these 2 small beds. Now they're lined on the bottom with weed suppressant just to knock the weeds back. You can see I've still got to take some of the brambles out there that are coming up, but these are my cold frames. So once things have grown on either in the shed or the greenhouse, which is on the other plot, I can put them into here, and that allows them to be protected from the cold with the glass, and protected from the frost to a certain extent, but it also allows them to have just that exposure to the air that's going on outside as well. This all needs clearing up. My chicken wire and stuff was from around my sweet corn last year to stop the deer getting to those. So this will all be sort of going back out, and the pallets will be used. We're going to put a second IBC tank. Ignore the one that's already there, but we are going to put one directly behind this one. The one behind those are all going to someone else's plot there. I get some of the whole allotments products that are going to be sold on or whatever. They all get dumped by my plot there because it's by the community plot. So I have these posts left over from my fruit cage, some of which have rotted off, and I'm going to use them to actually put a line down the side of my plot and sort of fence it in a little bit. Again, because we're an open site, deer, pheasants, everything likes to get in and have a nibble, which is fine if you've got plenty of it. And we do tend to grow quite a bit, but there's nothing worse when something's come and nibbled all your plants away. So I'm going to put a small fence down the side, and that's that. And we're just going to walk up here just so you get a bit more of a sense of the size of the plot. It's not a lot bigger than that, so probably that and the same again up here. I'm going to come right to the edge. So that is it. Back down to the shed, and then these compost bins are the line of my plot. There's like a little tree bush thing there at the back, and that's it. And as I said before in the other video, you can see the vineyard, which is a huge lovely vineyard here at the allotments, and this is where my sweet corn were last year. So the plot, whilst I've had it for a year, and I did grow rows of courgettes and cucumbers and stuff on here, and I had some pumpkins going on in front of the compost bins last year. I have only had it for a year, and realistically that was just a case of getting stuff in. Did really well for broccoli on this site last year. It's just a case of getting it all in and giving it a go. But this year I want to make a bit more of a plan, get it all kind of in there better, and actually sort of think about where I'm sowing stuff and using things. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to use all the raised beds for. There will be rows of potatoes, but they'll be going in on another plot we've got, which my dad kind of manages. And the potatoes that I've got, like the ones I've just shown you I've dug up, there'll be more of those going back into the pots. And then I'm planning on keeping the pots along this edge next to the beds because my water source is there, and potato plants need quite a lot of water when they're in pots. I think actually that's one of the reasons this is 3 tubs worth. Bearing in mind they're very small potatoes, they're sort of salad potatoes. It's not a bad little harvest, but it probably would have been a lot better had I watered them consistently. I tended to water them when they looked a bit bedraggled, which isn't how you're meant to do it. Anyway, sun's just trying to peek through. So that's a bit more of a full plot tour. I've got 15 I've discovered of these 35 litre tubs. You can see how they were last year. There's still some of the plants in here that were the beans that grew up over those arches last year. The bases were actually in these pots. But now I've got these two big ones in situ. I've decided that the arches are better off in there. It also brings a nice focal point, I think, to the allotment, makes it look cool. I think you can see behind me here, it's like IBC Central. As the allotment, the people that run the allotment, of which I'm one, because there is no water on site, we collect these from local companies. These are food grade IBC containers, which means they've not had any harsh chemicals or anything in them. We still wash them out and make sure they're all very clean, and then these are used on site for water collection. And so every year we try and get as many as we can. These things retail at about 200 quid on eBay sometimes. And so it's just fantastic that we've got this resource, that we make rain catchers for them, and I'll show you those in another video as well, because they're really useful. If you can get your hands on one of these beauties, rather than cutting the top off so stuff can fall into it, you just keep the original lids, the red lid there, and take that off, put a pipe into it. In fact, some of these have even got pipe. You can see that they've actually got like a pipe thing you can put into it, and by doing that, then you can collect a lot of water. I think these are 1,000 litres or something like that. I don't know, I'd have to check. But yeah, so these little roofs we make for them, over the winter they collect a lot of water when it's raining, and into the summer months as well, as it's still raining. But it's really imperative up here, because people don't realise until they've actually experienced like a whole summer where they're trying to bring water from home, if they haven't managed to get themselves some sort of water collection device. So these are really useful. They will not all be stood by my plot. Down the side here I've got my tables and chairs. There's some more of that glass, which we've had for donkey's years. I don't even know where that came from. I think that came from a business my dad used to run, and we'll probably make some more cold frames out of that. There's a load of pallets here. Each one of these IBC tanks sits on a couple of pallets to raise it up high enough so that when you're using the spout, let's see if we can find a spout for those of you that haven't seen these before. So the little spout is down there at the bottom, and when you're using that, the white thing gets fitted into where the red is, and that becomes the spout. And you need to have them higher up so that you can get your watering can underneath. If I go back to show you mine, there you are. See there on the pallets underneath, so that you can actually get the watering can under and get the water out efficiently. Otherwise, if they are on the ground like that, you can get an adapter and just put a piece of ordinary garden hose on it. But the idea of having them a bit further up as well is that it's gravity led, so it just runs out. I mean, it will do that at that height. It doesn't. Obviously, the gravity is forcing the water out at this without any pallets underneath. Just makes them a lot easier when you're doing them, when you're putting them up like that to use your watering can. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching my little allotment tour. So this is the small allotment, and we do have a couple of others which I will take you around, but not today, as the sun is still struggling to get out and I'm cold. I'm going to take those potatoes home that I've rescued from the 35 litre bins, and do something with those so they don't all go off and I end up with more potatoes to plant. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and see you on the next one.